here with the Mean Green Show, and I'm joined with Stephen Hamner from the QB Spotlight. If you're a fan of college football recruiting, quarterback rooms, make sure to like and subscribe to both of our channels because that's all we really talk about. And today we are going to do a QB room temperature check for Texas State. Starting to get a name of transfer state, but they've really been aggressive in the transfer portal, which, you know, like it or love it, it's interesting. You know, I think it's pretty interesting, but kind of refocusing our attention to quarterbacks specifically. You know, Stephen, what are your thoughts, like, just, you know, out the gates on Texas State's quarterback room?
Yeah. So before I kind of dive into it, you know, this will be a fun little series that, you know, me and Snow will be starting. So we're just going to be jumping in and talking about quarterback rooms. And before I talk about the quarterbacks, just to kind of give the listeners and people, anyone tuning in, what we mean by quarterback room, we mean kind of from like top to bottom, from the quality of the starter to the backup to what they have in depth. So we don't want to just talk about the starter. We want to talk about the room as a whole. And so I think I almost said quarterback state. I think Texas State. I think they got, before we talk about the actual temperature, I think they actually have three quality guys in the room at Texas State. Of course, they got Brady McBride, and they got Ty Evans coming in from NC State, and they have Tyler Vitt, who has started off and on the past few seasons for Texas State.
Right. So yeah, you think it's pretty safe to say it's a three-man race?
I think it's probably safe to say it's a two-man race. It's probably more of a Brady McBride is the starter, but they're bringing in Ty Evans that, you know, if things work out, he could take the job at some point. And you have Tyler Vitt as well, who you never want to, you know, completely leave off if we're just talking about who's going to be the starting quarterback. But it's probably McBride, Evans, and then Tyler Vitt. Even though when Vitt has played, he has shown that he can, you know, but he's got a high floor, if you will, and he's going to be able to, keep Texas State in the game, regardless of, you know, if he's starting or not. So
yeah, so Texas State, you know, coming off a 2-10 record, 2-6 in conference, and, you know, I think they have 10 transfers in their 2001 signing class. So yeah. So I feel like it's very emphasized of, like, I know there's a podcast, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it's called Win Now or Get Bent. It's a Texas State.
Yeah. Awesome podcast.
Yeah, awesome job. So, but I think that really kind of sums up where they are as far as their coach. I mean, like, they got to win now.
Right. Right.
So, you know, okay. So I'll give, and you tell me what you think about this, Stephen. You know, so, you know, Brady McBride, you know, coming out of Memphis, you know, he came in 2019 and was the predominant starter, and, you know, did pretty well. I mean, don't you think, like?
Yeah, so, yeah, you're right. So he transferred in 2019, had to sit out. 2020 became the starter. And even though they went 2-10, I think it's fair to say it was a fun 2-10, right?
Mm-hmm.
There were close games, like the close game against UTSA. They had a close game against SMU. Like, they played teams pretty closely. And there are other close games in there as well that I didn't mention. But I think if we're just talking about Brady McBride, and, you know, I won't talk about the temperature check quite yet, but if we're talking about Brady McBride, I think he's got a very high ceiling when he plays within himself, and he doesn't get too caught up in trying to make plays or go off script, and he stays in the pocket. Sometimes that was his biggest thing. He would leave the pocket too soon or try to make a play when nothing's there. The last few games of the year, he did a much better job staying within the pocket, trusting the play to develop, and just kind of allowing himself to play within the actual play call as opposed to trying to make a play himself. While he can still make a play with his legs, I think when he trusted the play call, he was able to do better, and you saw that the last few games of the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and, you know, as far as his stats last year, you know, he put up 61.35%, you know, completion rating, with 1,925 yards, 17 touchdowns, to 7 interceptions. You know, I mean, not bad per se. Not to even dive in what he did, you know, with his feet, which, you know, he's a pretty stout athlete. You know, coming out of high school, he was a 3-star, you know, but 24/7 composite. And they had him as an 81, you know, with their 81.73 or whatever you want to say it.
Right.
So kind of a, you know, lower tier 3-star QB, but has had obviously like starting experience for Texas State. With Ty Evans coming in, you know, out of North Carolina State, you know, he was a pretty highly rated 3-star QB, you know, with a .8830 by the 24/7 composite. So, okay. Do you think, and I know we're just speculating, I'm kind of putting you on the spot,
Yep.
but do you think do you think it's more of a, okay, McBride we need to get something better than McBride on the field, or is it like, okay, McBride, we're good going forward with McBride, but if we can get somebody in here to contend, you know what I mean, make it more of a tight race.
I totally get what you're saying. Yeah, so I think they're happy with McBride. He was exciting, and he's got a lot of potential. And again, it was his first year starting, so there are going to be some growing pains, right? But I think he's got a good quarterback developer in Spavital, and I think McBride has potential to be really good next year. With that said, I think they brought in Ty Evans because they saw, hey, there's a quality quarterback, a Power 5 level quarterback that we can bring in. This is only going to be a good addition to our quarterback room. It's only going to make our quarterback room better, regardless if Ty Evans ever ends up starting or not. He's making that room better, and he had a lot of good qualities coming out of high school that you would, and I don't want to assume, but you could speculate has only developed over time. And even though he didn't get playing time at NC State, he was still at that program, was able to develop. So I think bringing him in is only going to make that quarterback room better, regardless if he ends up starting or not. And then I'll jump into Tyler Vitt real quick, because I think knowing that you have, potentially 3 deep that could come in and win you a ball game is only going to make that situation better. So if we're talking about, if I'm having to give a random temperature check of the fan base, and from talking to some people in the Texas State community, if you will, I would say they've got a little bit of a fever, maybe that 99-100 range, where it's not like, hey, we're not like balls to the wall, extremely excited, but like we're not lukewarm or obsessed. Like we're pretty optimistic about things. We saw some good things last year. We think that McBride can develop, but we also brought in Ty Evans, who we're extremely excited about. He's a good quarterback recruit, and we have Tyler Vitt, who maybe doesn't have as high as a ceiling as some other guys, but we know he can come in and win us ball games and push the ball downfield when need be. So I would say they have a little bit of a fever going, and they're pretty optimistic going forward.
Yeah. Okay. So McBride, he came out, 2018 was when he came in, college to Memphis, and Ty Evans 2019. So I know it's kind of, nobody really knows the exact rules, but it sounds like each guy will have, McBride will have at least 3 more years to play, with Evans should be at least 4. I mean, it's just with year 0 and 2020 being what it is.
Right.
Okay, so let's play hypotheticals a little bit. Let's say McBride starts and holds a starting position all year, and there's no real, if you hold it all year, they're probably not going to turn to another guy.
Yeah, he has a great year this year.
Yeah. So, do you think then Ty Evans transfers again?
Good question. I don't want to speculate too much. Yeah. I would say it depends on the quarterback class of the 2022 recruiting class. I'll say that. Yeah.
Right.
That'd be,
okay. And let's say the other way. Let's say Ty Evans starts.
Yeah.
Do you think McBride puts his name in the portal after next year?
I would say I don't want to say it's safe to assume, but I would say if, regardless who starts, if they come out and have a kick-ass year, right? Mm-hmm. And it would be natural if I'm the backup quarterback to potentially put my name in the portal. So I would say if I had to bet, I would say yes. But again, I'm not going to speculate too much.
Right.
I don't know if that's what you're thinking.
Yeah. And it's it's interesting, and I always wonder how these, especially at the quarterback position, because usually second string quarterbacks aren't playing meaningful football, meaningful downs. Unlike any other position where. Literally every other position, if you're second string, you could be playing meaningful football, I feel like. So I find it kind of interesting that, is it Texas State kind of hinting at, we're trying to get something better than McBride out there. That's why we want this highly touted out of high school recruit to transfer to us, because in other words, why would Ty Evans want to go to a place that they had if he felt McBride was established?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
He probably sees the lower level school opportunity to go in and compete.
Yeah.
But McBride is thinking, hey, dude, like I'm going to get better, right? Like I had 1 year starting, so it's going to be fun to watch. I think
Yeah.
I think before we wrap it up, I would say as what I get a sense of is I think they're kind of they've got they have a fever, not a high fever, but it's not lukewarm, and the temperature room check would be that 99-ish to 100-ish, maybe mid 99s. If 104 is like a hot fever, right? I don't know. What you gauge on that? You think similar, or do you?
Yeah, I think so. You know, like kind of that low. Because I mean, Brady McBride. I mean, he showed really like. I mean, if I was a Texas State fan, I would feel not the worst going in with just McBride with no transfer. But the fact that they have, Ty Evans coming in and being as highly rated as he was, out of high school, I mean, a high tier 3-star, really pretty close to that 4-star rating. I would feel kind of a low temperature.
Well, low fever, right? Yeah. Well, I agree. And before we get out of here, I know you close this up, but like you mentioned earlier, if you haven't checked out that Win Now or Win Now or Get Bent, right?
Yeah.
That podcast, check it out. It's awesome. Good tech podcast, but also just good college podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, let us know if you're a Texas State fan or if you're a college football fan, and just what do you guys think about Texas State's quarterback room? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear, if you guys have an opinion on the matter, and who do you think is going to start? But all right, Stephen. Well, thanks for hopping on with me, and look forward to doing it again.